Well, hello! I'd like to welcome you to my review of the Pelikan Silvexa 21. There's just something about those slim black vintage pens that aren't quite too vintage that just really appeals to me. And the Pelikan Silvexa 21 definitely has it. So let's dive into it. If videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, maybe you can fill in some details about the Pelikan Silvexa or some of the other topics such as the feed that are going to come up tonight. Maybe you have some personal experience with how airplane safe this pen is. So let's take a look at the pen. So the Pelikan Silvexa is a sleek black minimalist pen, I guess. Well, not as minimalist as a Lamy 2000, but sleek and black, silver cap. When you look around the cap band, Pelikan Silvexa, Germany, and repeat. You could argue that the clip is a bit of a stylized Pelikan bill, but I think you'd be kind of pushing it. Maybe a bit more like the 800, I don't know. There is a finial that's a Pelikan, but this has been slightly damaged by who knows what. You know, it's a vintage pen. The other finial. Uncap it, it's a slip cap. It has a vestigial hooded nib. The hood has receded of the evolution of the Pelikan. Gold nib. Apparently this is an extra fine. It's white gold. And the feed, which I'm going to come back to. There's a bluish ink window here, which you can't really make out, but it's there between the gold band and the beginning of the barrel. The pen itself was produced between 1969 to 1975. That puts it almost at my age, because 1975 is the year I was born. So let's watch calling it vintage. But it was part of the P1/M line. This is more the M line of it. Aesthetically, it actually follows the design trend of the Parker 50. No, I'm sorry, of the Parker 45. So there's that guy. Here's a Parker 45. You know, those slim tapered ends. Let's see if I can bring that out. Yeah, my notes are over there. If you saw what I'm writing on, they have to be there. But kind of that same aesthetic with the just that slim tapered ends. The advertising of the day made a big deal about how safe this was for airplane travel. But that vestigial semi-hooded nib is hooked to a very simple feed. Now, I don't want to take it apart because, you know, there's ink in there, but I have this Pelikan MK10, which has the same feed. So, in the course of evolution, this hood has not quite completely receded yet. And you can see how the ink window works. But what I want to do is slip out the nib and feed. I did it once. There we go. So the nib and feed are just friction fit. The nib looks like this. Of course, in the MK10, it's a steel nib. But it's the same nib and feed except gold in the Silvexa. And then there's your feed. I mean, a little bit of fins, kind of a hole thingy in this straw, but I mean, that's it. So what's going on here? Well, what this is, it's a conductive ink feeder. It was patented by, I hope I get his name right, I apologize in advance, Theodor Kovac. Pelikan called it a thermic regulator. I suppose in reference to Well, if the ink expands, it can heat. It can handle it or something. You know, when it expands due to heat. I don't know that. That's me making an intelligent guess. It was first it first appeared on the Pelikan P1 in September of 1958, and then later the M and the MK models like this MK10 had it. The Pelikan Silvexa is actually an M model. You will see it sometimes marketed as the M21. Apologize for the noise there. I laid those down right beside the microphone, so I hate to think how that sounded. But what I'd like to do now is take a look at how this pen writes, because that is why we're all here. The ink in this pen is Kentuar Green Tea, which looks nothing like green tea, but we'll move on. As far as flex, yes, it's a gold nib, but this is not a flex nib. There is a bit of line variation, but I am not about to push this nib. I can just tell writing with this pen that the nib does not want to be pushed. Which is fine, because just because it's gold and just because it's vintage doesn't mean it's flex. I suppose you could argue that the gold makes it have a little bit more bounce. I have no idea. As far as wetness and flow, I think you can already see that. No trouble keeping up. The smear test. It's actually pretty wet, but this ink seems to be fairly fast drying, which I don't know why I didn't expect it, but I didn't expect it. And then, of course, reverse writing. You know, a little scratchier, but not bad, and definitely that looks like an extra fine to me. The regular writing looks more like a plump fine, maybe even almost a medium to my eye. But of course, those mean absolutely nothing in the great scheme of things. So now we're going to jump in and do a longer form writing sample. And of course, one thing I always like to do, what I call the Pierre Gustafson test after pen reviewer and pen restorer Pierre Gustafson. If you were wondering if this pen can keep up with really rapid writing, there you go. Yes, it can. Of course, one other question I feel is worth asking. Didn't even have to try, just slipped right over that. And this is a thick flannel shirt. So that's the Pelikan Silvexa 21. If you look at my links down below, you'll see some interesting information about the nib and feed and a lot of the other Pelikan models of this time. I don't see them talked about much among collectors, but to me, this is like classy 70s. Not the garish, over-the-top, avocado green type of 70s with the shag carpets and the bell-bottoms, but, the classy, understated look of the 70s. All the good sides of the design that are timeless. Sorry if you like your bell bottoms or just waiting for them to come back. But anyway, I just really, really like this pen. It could have become a daily writer for me, I think, at the time. I like my Lamy 2000. I like my Kaweco V14S. You know, I'm fortunate to live at a time when I have a wealth of pens available to me for daily writing. But as I said, this could easily be one of them. So, I want to thank you for watching, and if videos like this interest you, where I talk about fountain pens both new and old and at all price points, I would invite you to subscribe. And hey, maybe you can tell me something about the Pelikan Silvexa, or maybe you can tell me if the advertising is right and it really is airplane safe, or do I have to ride with it upright and be really careful of it when using it? Let me know down in the comments. So as always, I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.